Maize is a staple food to more than 50% of Africa's population. Compared to other grains, maize grows faster, is cheap to produce, and is also affordable. In the East African region, maize is sold in two forms, either when it is still green or when it is dry after it is processed into flour for either home or industrial use. For a long time, smallholder farmers have relied on maize as a cash crop. However, in the recent past, some farmers have complained that they are unable to sell their maize produce because of poor quality, as well as the probability that their maize could be infected with aflatoxin. This video aims at educating farmers on the proper guidelines to ensure quality production of maize. Following these guidelines will contribute to making agribusiness in maize easier and more reliable as an income stream for smallholder farmers. Quality production of maize is a process that has to begin at the initial stages of preparing the farm. The farm has to be prepared early before the onset of the rains in order to ensure that the soil is moist and has the right soil minerals. In most cases, farms that have been used to grow maize in previous seasons retain diseases and pests that can destroy the new breed of maize. Use certified seeds and ensure that they are bought from authorized dealers. Unauthorized seed dealers are likely to sell seeds that are infected by diseases and pests, which will eventually affect the final harvest.
There is a difference between a person who has bought the certified seed and not. In terms of appearance in the field, one, the certified seed are resistant to diseases.
Planting should be done at the start of the rains. Ensure that you complete planting before 3 days are over. While planting, follow the instructions given. Ensure that you use the spacing that is recommended between the plants and between rows. Using the recommended spacing per plant will give you the best harvest. While planting, use phosphate fertilizer in the portions recommended for your region. Nitrogen is needed in large quantities by plants and should therefore be used twice, that is, 2 weeks after planting and then after the maize starts to germinate. Between the 4th and 6th week, maize crops are normally affected by competition of nutrients from weeds. Weeding is therefore recommended when the maize crop has started to flower. Pests and diseases that can destroy your crops can infest your maize. Use pesticides to prevent pests such as termites, locusts, and worms from damaging your maize. Always be keen to know the right time for harvesting to ensure that you prevent your crop from being destroyed by bad weather. If you are late in harvesting, especially during the rainy season, your maize crop will be susceptible to rotting, germination, and infestation by pests. This affects the quality of your produce. When is the right time for harvesting?
Mara mingi tunaingia shambani, tunaangalia mahindi. Tukikuta mahindi tayari imeanza kuinama, ile tunaita na Kiingereza drooping. Sasa hiyo ndio tunafikiria kuanza kuvuna mahindi.
Remember, prepare your farm well. Use certified seeds for your region. Use the recommended seed spacing. Use the recommended fertilizers in the right portions for your region. Weed your maize crops. Harvest at the right time. Any form of mishandling during harvesting can cause major losses at the snap of a finger. Carefully follow all the laid down instructions for maize harvesting and storage. Sort the maize seeds that are damaged and separate them from the good ones during harvesting. Damaged seeds are either rotten or cracked and as such affect the quality of your produce. These are the guidelines to consider during storage. The duration of time for storage, the moisture content of the grain during harvest, the quantity of maize harvested, the market and means of transport. In the rural areas, stores can be constructed using materials that can be easily accessed. Majority of the farmers use wood and iron sheets for roofing. A store that allows fresh air to circulate easily is most recommended for areas that receive high levels of rainfall and a place where the maize harvested has high levels of moisture content. How do you construct a good store? Before storing your maize, clean your store. Your store must be cleaned so as to remove dirt and any remains of maize previously stored. Spray the store using recommended pesticides in order to destroy all pests in the store before storing your maize. After the maize has dried, it should be shelled and dried in the sun until it reaches the recommended moisture content of 13.5%. Shelling can be done using a hand sheller or a mechanized sheller. When drying your maize, ensure that you sort the good from the bad grain. Dry the maize in a clean area or using a tarpaulin. Ensure that you keep turning the maize so that it dries evenly. Use sisal or jute bags to store your maize. Do not store your maize while the grain is still at a high temperature. This temperature affects the quality of your grain. Mornings are normally the right time to store your maize in the bags. Do not store your maize if it is rained on. Ensure that you dry it first. Storing maize in this state will destroy your maize. In case you intend to store your maize for more than 2 months, ensure that you dust the maize. Do not wait until your maize is pest infested so that you can dust the maize. Once your maize is infested, it will be hard to destroy the pests. Ensure that the area or tarpaulin you intend to use is clean. Pile your grain on one side of the clean tarpaulin. Sprinkle the pesticide on the pile of grain using a measuring cup. Using the spade, Mix the grain with the pesticide. Ensure that you turn your grain until it is evenly dusted. The pile of grain should be moved from one end of the tarpaulin to the other. The dusted grain should be stored in a clean bag. Maize is a seasonal crop and is stored so as to ensure it can be used throughout the year. The price of maize is normally low during the harvest season, and so a farmer who stores his or her maize well is able to make a profit during the off-peak season. In order for farmers to be able to consider maize as a cash crop, they have to ensure that storage is done well. Many farmers do not have the ability to store their grain well. As a result, they are advised to join farmers' groups that store grain together and ensure easy sale of maize. Storing grain as a group helps farmers to be able to sell their maize at competitive prices later. Use a store that is well ventilated so as to regulate the temperature and reduce the moisture content in the store. Remember, good storage reduces post-harvest losses. Use either sisal or jute bags. Use integrated pest control methods. Before taking your maize to the market or for storage in the group store, ensure that you know its quality. Often, farmers have maize that is rotten, has dirt, pests, is damaged, and at times discolored. Use a sieve to remove the damaged maize and dirt from your grain. It is advised that farmers use sisal bags to store their maize. In case a farmer decides to use plastic bags, they should ensure that the moisture content is at 12.5%. Do not pile your maize in the store haphazardly. The recommended moisture content for storage of maize is 13.5%. During the sale of your maize, ensure that you are involved in the weighing and recording of your maize. Bags are used mostly to store maize in the store. A grain store has the potential to store 5,000 bags of maize. A good store should have enough space for inspection, cleaning, dusting, and air circulation. The store should have enough room for moving grain in and out of the store and holders that leave spacing of 20 centimeters from the floor. Household stores are traditional structures used to store grain. Ensure that you fill all the holes that can be used by rats, pests, and water to enter the store. Cover the walls, floor, and ceiling. Ensure that the store is clean so as to make sure that rats do not find the store to be a favorable environment. Put the bags far from the floors and walls of the store to ensure that the moisture does not affect your grain. The grain bags should be placed on wood and at least half a centimeter from the walls of the store. Cut all grass that is around the store. Put up rat guards around the store to prevent rats from accessing the store. Rat guards can be made from pieces of tin cans that have been tied around the supporting poles of the store. Silos are most appropriate when storing large quantities of grain. Machines are normally used to put in and remove grain, dust, and air the grain. Grain is stored in different quantities so as to ensure that a farmer gets a good price for his produce. Even after practicing good storage of grain, the sale of maize can be affected by other factors, for example, aflatoxin. What is aflatoxin? How can we prevent grain from being affected by aflatoxin? Do not throw your grain on the ground during the harvest period. Use a tarpaulin. Do not dry your maize on the bare ground. Do not beat your maize during shelling. This causes the grain to break and can be infested by disease easily. Dust your grain appropriately. Store your grain in sisal bags. Store your grain in the store. Do not store your grain in the house. If you follow the right procedures for planting, harvesting, and the general guidelines for quality, then you will be sure that as a farmer, you will get a good price for your produce, and in so doing, your agribusiness will succeed.